Acer Aspire 7 has not been refreshed since the 10th generation iteration, so you can imagine my excitement when I learned that they finally updated the Aspire series high-end laptop. This year, it's rocking Intel's latest 12th generation 1260p i7 processor, 16GB of DDR4 memory, a modest 512GB solid state drive. We also have a RTX 3050 with 4GB of VRAM or video memory. Additionally, we have Wi-Fi 6 as well as Bluetooth 5 standards on board, and it's worth noting this is a 15-inch display with a full HD resolution. Now, full disclaimer, depending on where you are in the world, the configuration for this laptop can greatly vary, so the display might be different or the available processors might be different, but the general design will be consistent across. And there is a ton of stuff to talk about in regards to this laptop, so let's get started. Starting with a quick unboxing, as you can see, the creativity is just oozing here as Acer has opted to go with a generic looking cardboard box. I'm impressed they even bothered putting their brand name on here. But anyway, once you remove all the content seal and proceed to open up the box, inside firstly you'll find the laptop itself behind a bunch of protective packaging. Once you remove all of that, here it is, the Aspire 7. Now you also have the inclusion of a 135 watt charging adapter. It comes with a barrel pin style charging pin, which again makes total sense since we are over 100 watts, so it wouldn't make sense to have USB-C charging right out of the box. You also have the wall outlet charging cable piece, and finally the quick start warranty and regulation information. Design-wise, the Aspire 7 has a chunky body, and Acer is not afraid to show it around. I mean, this is a very linear, old school looking laptop, but that charcoal color complements it nicely, and overall the design still somehow manages to have a modern appeal, even though it feels, like I said, chunkier than a lot of the competition. Now with that said, you have a mix of metallic and plastic exterior materials, and the laptop has an overall weight of approximately 4.63 pounds. Starting with the top side, you have a metallic surface finish. It's very smooth to the touch. There's no particular texture. Acer has kept it very minimalist and simple here. You do of course have a little bit of Acer branding towards the top side, but that's pretty much it. The rear side of this laptop has the primary heat exhaust vent, which is skewed towards the left side. It's also where both the hinges are actually housed. Now, as you might have guessed, the side of the laptop is where the magic happens. So on one side, you have the charging port, you have a Ethernet jack, a much appreciated HDMI 2.1 port, two USB-A super speed ports, and a fully loaded USB-C Thunderbolt 4 port. Now on the other side, you'll notice you have one more heat exhaust vent, so plenty of cooling going on, and one more USB-A super speed port and a headphone jack. Now I don't see the inclusion of a SD card reader, but in all fairness, you have plenty of USB ports on this thing. The bottom side of this laptop is a pretty happening place as well. So you've got plenty of holes for, oh, that just sounds wrong. But the point is that you've got plenty of air intake vents over here. This is a dual fan setup, one for the system and the other for the GPU. So plenty of cooling going on here. Now you'll also notice on either corner you have the speaker grills. So yes, it is a bottom firing setup, and we will definitely do a sound test later on in the video. When you unfold this laptop, you get an immediate appreciation for the sheer amount of palm rest space you have, but that's where the happiness ends, unfortunately. So you'll notice you have a plastic chassis. Compared to nearly all of the competition, this is quite disappointing, as the likes of the HP Pavilion, the IdeaPad 5, and the Inspiron 7000 all have metallic inner chassis. So what gives Acer? On top of that, the trackpad is even more disappointing. So while you do have a fair bit of surf real estate, the problem is they use a cheap plastic surface finish. It has a ridiculous amount of flex. You can make a trampoline out of this thing. Literally, it's just not good. The clicks are poorly optimized, and while you do have the inclusion of a built-in fingerprint scanner, it's just really poorly integrated. On a lighter note, the keyboard here is of decent quality. So you do have a good amount of surface area per keycap. The keys are well labeled. The keyboard is fully backlit with multiple brightness settings. You also have a a compact 10 key pad. My only nitpick thing here is that the arrow keys for the up and down ones look like they never grew out of their baby form. It's an awkward design choice. Now, the typing experience isn't bad either, so you have a decent amount of key travel, and while there is a little bit of hollowness when typing, it does have some degree of tactility. While it's not an industry-leading laptop keyboard, it's good enough in my opinion. The hinge system is surprisingly reliable, so Acer uses a 2-lever system here, but it's actually pretty well tuned. There's not a lot of wobble. It has a maximum tilt of 140 degrees. As long as you don't use it like an absolute animal, it should last for the years to come. Display fitting is okay, so you do have a pretty fat chin at the bottom, but it's not out of the ordinary. You have relatively modern and narrow looking bezels, so it looks a little sleek, I suppose. And then at the top, you have a moderately thick forehead. At the center of it, you have a miserable 720p webcam that has about as much life in it as an introvert at a party. The display is going to be a bit of a hot topic because depending on where you are in the world, the specifications for the display can actually vary a lot with the new Aspire 7. For example, here in Canada, the specifications you get include a resolution of 1920 by 1080p with a 16:9 aspect ratio. However, you do get an impressive 144 Hz refresh rate. On top of that, this is a IPS panel with wide viewing angles. You don't have any sort of touch captivity on this display. However, you only have a peak brightness of 250 nits, which honestly is dangerously low if you are using this thing outdoors or in very bright settings. Now, here's the weird part. So here with the Canadian variant, you have a color rating of just approximately 57% sRGB, and that's a compromise they make to achieve the 144 Hz refresh rate. However, I have it on good authority that some variations of this laptop come with a 60 Hz display that actually has a 100% sRGB rating. So as you can see, that's quite the dramatic difference. And again, it's just going to depend on the retailer and the region you're in. So, keep a little salt with you basically. Keeping in mind that you have a P-series processor here, performance is pretty decent as it's Intel's mid-range level processors, so that i7 chip can easily breeze through any day-to-day activity like web browsing, word processing, or number crunching. However, moderate to high intensity activities are still very much doable on here, so whether it's photo editing, 3D modeling, or programming, they're all going to be a pretty smooth experience. Even the most intensive activities like multi-layer 4K video editing are very much possible. You will get the occasional frame drop on programs like DaVinci Resolve 18, but a lot of that has to do with the rather limiting 16GB of RAM, which if upgraded should resolve that problem to a good extent. Now, as far as gaming is concerned, you do have a dedicated GPU. The RTX 3050 can max out games like Fortnite and still produce a healthy 90 plus frames per second, making for a very comfortable gaming experience. Now, more graphically intensive games like Doom Eternal, for example, cannot be maxed out due to the limiting 4GB of VRAM, but they can be run at relatively high settings with frame rates that are well above 60 FPS, so decent gaming performance for sure. In the thermals department, remember how I mentioned that this laptop has chunkier dimensions? Well, it kind of paid off because under unrealistic peak loads, this laptop can hit a maximum surface temperature of just around 45 degrees Celsius. But more realistic heavy loads will yield you around 38 degrees Celsius, which is actually pretty cool given the kind of hardware we're rocking on this machine and its relatively small 15-inch form factor. Now, fan noise isn't quite as forgiving, so you can hit maximum noise levels of around 65 decibels under heavier loads, but in all fairness, you do have a dedicated GPU on here, so it's not entirely unexpected. With a 3-cell 50 watt per hour battery, you can expect an average runtime of 7.5 hours on a single charge doing low to medium intensity activities. However, if you are gaming, that naturally drops to around 1 to 2 hours tops. Now, in terms of the sound quality, the speakers on here are bare bone generic speakers. They are bottom firing and the lows are close to non-existent, but it's pretty much what I expected. Have a quick listen for yourself. In summary, at 900 US dollars, this laptop ranges somewhere between mid-range and high range in terms of pricing, but the compromises are kind of obvious and the gains are kind of obvious as well. For example, you have a very utilitarian body here in terms of design language, but it doesn't necessarily look as sleek as the competition. Performance numbers as a result of this design are actually quite nice. Thermals are very manageable, and the keyboard here is decent as well. You also have a great selection of I/O ports. Now, the not so great things include that miserable trackpad, that subpar webcam, as well as the lackluster speaker system. And also, the display varies a lot depending on which region you're in again, but having 250 nits of peak brightness is just disappointing in my honest opinion. But again, I think this laptop kind of makes obvious compromises, so you know exactly what you're getting with this laptop. So if you are someone who just wants a laptop that has great performance, great customizable specs, I definitely think the Aspire 7 is a great option. But if you are doing activities that are heavy in terms of color sensitivity, or if you need a laptop with even higher end specs or slightly better pricing in terms of where it's going, then the Aspire 7 might be a little out of budget or a little out of value in those situations. But generally speaking, I think it's a laptop that does exactly what it sets out to do, which is to provide a high-end mid-range experience. Let me know what you think of the Aspire 7, and if you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to our channel. It genuinely helps us grow. Thanks for watching.